you today in this season of Advent, the season of expectation, the season of waiting for your Holy Son to come and redeem this world. Lord, thank you for allowing the commissioners to get here safely. Please bless Dr. Callis there in Beaumont. Watch over us as we go back to our respective parts of the state. Keep us safe, all those who have traveled here today. Lord, let us keep in mind today that each one of us is made in the likeness, the image, and the dignity of your presence, of your example, your love. We ask this in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Yolanda, can you do the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Commissioner Sujit Dakshram.
Present.
Commissioner Lori Hyde. Present. Commissioner Nora Castaneda. Present. Dr. Gary Weston.
Present.
Dr. Ray Callis.
Present.
Vice Chair Tom Butler.
Present.
Chairman Rick Figueroa.
Here. All right, we have a full slate.
Present.
Okay, excellent. All right. We're gonna go to item C in public comment. We're accepting public comments in writing. In person, commissioners, we've received numerous comments this morning. I'm sure you've gotten copies of it. I think, Yvonne, has everybody gotten copies? Courtney, has everybody gotten copies? Okay. If there's anyone here wishing to address the commission on a matter that is not on the agenda, if you're here on a contested case or rule, you'll be called up when we get to that item on the agenda. If you want to speak, please fill out a public comment form and turn it in to Yvonne. We're gonna have the first commentator, and I'm gonna read these instructions in general, okay? It's gonna be, please say your name, who you represent. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Please understand the commissioners are not allowed to ask questions or engage in discussion with you about anything that's not specifically on our agenda. Please also understand that the commissioners cannot hear any information about a pending complaint or enforcement case because we may ultimately be the decision makers in that case. Okay? All right. We're gonna go with Andrew Patterson.
Right here?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, when you're ready.
I'm gonna go ahead.
Okay.
3 minutes.
All right, I'm Rizwan. Well, I'd like to thank the commissioners and TDLR leadership for kindly hosting a summit to look into behavior analyst licensing. They were kind enough to invite the leadership from ANSI that came out, that's the American National Standards, to answer questions that they had about professional national standards, consumer safety. We had a very thorough meeting, which lasted 4 hours. At the end of the day, it comes down to choice, ensuring that there are no monopolies and that people do have the option of going with the certification that matches up with them. For me, that was really highlighted when one of the representatives from Texava, proudly went into the fact that the only certification currently right now will mandate DEI training for every single certification holder in the state of Texas, meaning every license holder in Texas will have to take their DEI training. Otherwise, they cannot keep their license. At QABA, we don't believe in that. We believe in a merit-based system. We will not adhere to DEI or follow that path. And we believe that people in Texas have a choice. So thank you very much.
Eva Garrett. Ms. Garrett, you understand instructions?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Eva Garrett. I'm here to represent myself as well as Action Behavior Centers. I gained my license as a behavior analyst 2 years ago after 2,000 hours of field work, the required amount by the BACB. Every article I studied, every late night meeting, every completed patient assessment chipped away at that number of 2,000 hours. 2 years after hitting that goal, I'm thankful for the amount of experience those 2,000 hours have lent me, and that those are the hours currently required for my profession in the state of Texas. I have the privilege to work with children on the autism spectrum and their families as behavior analyst. I learned the how-tos of behavioral science within my work as a technician and going through my graduate coursework. However, I was prepared to do it with compassion, concern, and with humility through those 2,000 hours. The QBA certification currently only requires 1,500 hours of fieldwork, which is 75% of the hours required by the BACB. While behavioral science is not solely applicable to working with people on the spectrum, the QBA certification is an autism intervention rather than the broader practice of behavior analysis, or another behavioral health profession. This is a concern, as not only does it limit the scope of behavior analysts with the QBA certification, it is also a certification that requires less training with a population that deserves our best practitioners. I'm here to emphasize maintaining this license through a route that requires higher standards for training, offers a potential for a broader scope of practice, and furthermore is guided by a nonprofit organization such as the BACB. I believe that this is the way that we can support compassionate care for our patients and ensure quality of care for families and stakeholders of those that we serve. As a BCBA and Texas licensed behavior analyst, I am opposed to the proposal to include the qualified applied behavior analysis credentialing boards, credential as eligible for behavior analyst licensure. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Chelsea Zawadzki. Did I pronounce that right?
Zawadzki.
Zawadzki.
Yes.
It's a good Spanish name. Go ahead, Chelsea.
Hi, my name is Chelsea Zawadzki, and I'm here to represent myself in Action Behavior Centers. I am also opposed to the proposal to include the QABA credentials as eligible for behavior analyst licensure. Having gone through the BACB's training to become a BCBA, I have concerns about the standards, particularly regarding QABA's coursework, training requirements, the potential limited scope of competency, and the minimal supervision and fieldwork standards like Eva mentioned. The coursework and training requirements are concerning to me because they fail to adequately prepare clinicians to address the diverse and complex needs of our clients. In a field where we work with a lot of individuals who do have comorbidities, I know that I wouldn't have felt prepared if I had only been trained on autism instead of behavior analysis as a whole. This would ensure that clinicians aren't necessarily trained and competent in meeting the varied and evolving needs of their clients, especially in a field where individualized care is so necessary. Also, it raises concerns of the adequacy of clinical training. The lower number of required supervised hours increases the likelihood that clinicians might not receive the training to develop competence in both the technical and ethical aspects that we need to bring to the field. Going through the BACB's training, again, like Eva mentioned, 2,000 hours, it seems like a lot, but even that I felt like didn't necessarily fully prepare me, and I needed to seek out additional training and supervision before I gained my license to feel like I was competent in serving all of my patients. In conclusion, the QABA credential does not align with the rigor and scope required for high-quality behavior analysis practice. Licensure based on just these credentials would not only compromise the integrity of our field as a whole, but would also put already vulnerable populations at risk of receiving substandard and potentially harmful treatment. Thank you.
Chelsea, thank you for your work. Thank you. Katie Sills. Good morning, Katie.
Good morning. Hi, my name is Katie Sellis, and I represent myself and also Action Behavior Centers. I'm also opposed to this proposal. As a BCBA, we have an extremely difficult and important responsibility to the families and children we serve. I've had the privilege to be in the field now over a decade, and I've been certified for over 8 years. And I've watched as the BACB's requirements have become more and more stringent as what we do is so nuanced and difficult. And I really support that work in adding more courses and more ethical guidelines. And so seeing this proposal was very concerning to me because it seems to be doing the opposite. It seems to be reducing the rigor that we really need in this training program. I support a lot of new BCBAs in the field, new clinicians, and like my colleague said, it's already very difficult. And already with the 2,000 hours, they still need additional training to that. And so I believe the BACB will only increase the hours over time. seeing something that's reducing the requirements is just very troubling to me. I know we already mentioned, but the reduction in graduate level coursework hours, the reduction in fieldwork standards, that's a reduction of 500 hours, and that's very considerable and meaningful. I already, when I'm training candidates, it takes approximately 1.5 to 2 years to have someone be fully trained. And thinking about reducing that time period is just, it's very concerning to me for these families. It's an extremely vulnerable population. Many of these families don't know that much about autism, and they rely on us for our expertise to be there for them. And they need us to be well educated and well trained to help support them through all of the challenges that raising a child with autism pose. There were some other concerns that I noticed too, where even taking the exam seemed to be an issue, where with the QABA requirements, it's proctored by Examity, which has numerous complaints and issues in the recent past. The VACB requirements do require a professional exam in a secure testing center, and I think that's really important to continue. Also, the QABA board lacks public information about its ethics code, including how it was developed, how to report ethical violations, and how it's enforced. This really raises serious problems protecting customers receiving services from QABA certificates. The VACB has a very thorough ethics board and procedure because sometimes customers and families do deserve that right to be able to report ethics violations. The families and children with autism that we serve are truly deserving of the highest quality of care. Please do not allow the quality of that care to decrease. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Mario Hernandez.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Mariel Fernandez. I'm here on behalf of the Texas Association for Behavior Analysis Public Policy Group, the Council of Autism Service Providers, myself, my aunt, who is an adult with autism, my uncle-in-law, who's an adult with a developmental disability residing in a waiver home in Fort Worth, my mother, who recently suffered a traumatic brain injury as a result of cancer, and both of my in-laws who were recently diagnosed with Alzheimer's. Why do I mention this to you? Because every single one of my family members that I just mentioned benefits from behavior analytics services. This is not a program, a service for individuals with autism. I have dedicated my career, 20 years, to this field. I'm a member of the Behavior Analyst Advisory Board for TDLR. And I beg you to look at the big picture and recognize that decreasing the requirements for licensure impacts more than children with autism and their families. The science of behavior analysis is for the entire human population. And authorizing a credential in autism and autism only will cause harm. I would not feel comfortable with a QBA or a ClassFS supervising programming for my mother or my in-laws or my uncle. They're simply not qualified if their training is in autism. I have significant concerns regarding the equivalence of this credential to that of the BACB. And it is not because I'm a behavior analyst. Through my work with CAS, I am blessed to work with the leaders of QABA on many issues in many other states. And I can support them on those things. I simply cannot support them on this. So thank you for your time, for your patience, and for thinking about people like my family members who deserve access to high quality care from qualified service providers. Thank you.
Thank you. Rachel Graham.
Hi, my name is Rachel Kramer. I'm here representing myself, my daughter with autism, and also the Texas Association for Behavior Analysis. TexABA has already spoken at the Credentialing Summit in September, and so I will not reiterate our main concerns there, but I would like to clarify this gentleman's comments that we were emphasizing DEI. TexABA did not even discuss that or bring that up at the Credentialing Summit. That is false. TexABA does have equity, diversity, and inclusivity for everyone committee. and that everyone includes all of Texas and represents our commitment to serving the rural areas, the diverse populations, and individuals who have a variety of disabilities and needs for behavioral services in Texas. TxAVA Executive Council does encourage TDLR commissioners to return this issue to the Behavior Analysis Advisory Board. This issue should be given notice in the Texas Register and given the appropriate public comment period. But the bigger reason that I'm here and the reason that I drove down after 10 p.m. after watching my kindergartner in the Grapevine Parade of Lights is to fight for quality services for my daughter and individuals like her. My daughter does have an autism diagnosis, and I will stand here and tell you that even as a parent of a child with autism, the behavior analysis licensure is not just for individuals with autism. It's for everyone. It's appropriate for, helping with the gen population in public schools. It's appropriate for helping with juvenile justice. It's bigger than autism, and I say that as an autism mom. And licensure is the floor. It is the minimum qualification of practice for someone to independently treat and work with the public in Texas. Texas is a leader in the field of behavior analysis. We are respected. We have leaders in our universities who do research, who are invited internationally and nationally. And the individuals serving on the board, the Behavior Analysis Advisory Board, are experts. 2 I have known for over 10 years. And not only do I admire their expertise and trust their judgment, I trust them with the life of my daughter. They are individuals that I would turn to if I needed something for my children beyond my own expertise. I have worked as a behavior analyst before my second child was born for 15 years. I've worked with a lot of families. I could tell you horror stories. In all of those stories, I remember my own children. And I am appalled that TDLR is not listening to the Behavior Analysis Advisory Board. They have reviewed QAVA's certifications twice. This issue has been addressed, and yet here we are, and we are not listening to the Behavior Analysis Advisory Board with their combined experience and expertise in this area. We all know why licensure for behavior analysis is important. We all agree on protecting vulnerable Texans. The QAVA credentials are a lower standard, a lower minimum requirement, and I strongly believe that harm will come to vulnerable Texans like my daughter if TDLR does not listen to the Behavior Analysis Advisory Board. QAVA's alternative coursework is deemed as not acceptable standard in the United States and is only approved for outside of the US by the Association for Behavior Analysis International, who have been accrediting behavior analysis programs in our country and now across the world. Please do not lower the minimum standard in Texas.
We gotta wrap it up now, I'm sorry.
Okay. This is my children's home. And please don't lower the standards because other countries cannot meet our standards here in Texas. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioners, we're going to go to executive session to consult with our attorney under sections 551.071, subsection 1 and 551.071, section 2. The government code, the time is 8:52. After executive session, we'll take a break and come back here. Doug, 30 minutes?
That's what we can aim for, sure.
Let's do that. Okay, let's do 9:20. We'll return to 9:10, pick up with any action on executive session items and then begin to the contested cases. I'm gonna switch the agenda around a little bit, so maybe move Jay up, so just FYI. So give you a heads up and we'll go from there. Thank you. There were no items needed for the executive session. We're gonna go to item F, minutes. I'll take a motion.
So moved.
Chairman, I need to interrupt real quickly. I'm sorry. The minutes have been updated since the version that was in your materials to reflect Commissioner Hyde's attendance at the last meeting. So the motion would be, if you wouldn't mind revising the motion to adopt the minutes as amended to reflect Commissioner Hyde's attendance.
Commissioner, you're good with that?
Yes, I saw
Thank you.
Second. There's a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We're gonna go to item J, commissioners. Courtney, you wanna have your staff come up?
We have 3 staff who can come up to the table and to whom you can direct your questions, and I'm happy to help as well, but any of the questions you'd like to pose to staff, we're here to answer.
All right, commissioners, what we're gonna do is, Mr. Bruno, Mr. Burhalter are gonna speak, and then you have some comments. And, we'll make sure that. Mr. Bruno, Burhalter, if you just make sure, identify yourself, would be great.
Steve Bruno, Deputy Executive Director for Licensing Services with TDLR.
And Derek Burkhalter, Deputy General Counsel for TDLR.
Okay. You have the floor.
We're here to answer any questions that you will have regarding this agenda item. We will also be joined, I believe, momentarily by Steve Eaker with our Regulatory Program Management Program. And Derek and I and Steve are here for you all to answer any questions that we can.
Can you go through the process of how you reviewed the license?
Yes, sir. Several months ago, a summit was held, a open forum, which was an agendaed advisory committee meeting of the Behavior Analyst Advisory Board, which also allowed for an open discussion. Any and all who were interested in talking about the topic were invited to attend. Dr. Borland convened the meeting of the advisory board, and then since he was an advisory board member, he wanted to have a separation in that discussion. So I acted as chair of the discussion, and we, similar to what you all do in your meetings and in other advisory board meetings, we called upon those who had come to speak. And it was a bit of a less structured format than perhaps a formal meeting, in that we had some discussions in the audience. We had discussions with folks who were attending via television and who were here in person. And as you know, oh, thanks, Steve. And I'll give you a moment to introduce yourself. Please come sit. Okay. So we held that open discussion, and there was some. I saw a lot of. I think everyone who was there saw a lot of passion in the room. I also saw something. Just from my observation point, I saw a lot of people who care deeply about providing help for those in need, and that was something that was unifying to me among everyone who was in the room. Is that everyone was there to help, and that was something that was very nice to see. There was some heated discussion, and I think that the goal was to have an open discussion and forum based on the statute, and I'll defer to Derek for any discussion, of course, about that, but based on the definition of certifying entity, and then the staff were asked by you all to prepare the comparison document that you've all received that breaks down hours and topics and certain differences, recognizing, I guess I'll conclude by saying the statute does say the word equivalent. And I understand, as I think you all do, that word can be subjective.
Chair, just give me a second, one more before. Can you walk through Derek chart for the commission?
And could we introduce Mr. Eaker, please? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm Steve Eaker. I'm the manager of the medical and wellness section.
Okay. Whichever one you think, Mr. Bruno, to walk through that chart real quick before, and I'm gonna recognize it, but I just want to make sure we walk through that chart that you have in front of us.
Sure. I'll ask Steve to help me out, if you don't mind, and I'll begin. What we've laid out is side by side of educational requirements, and we'll begin with that. Both require a master's degree in behavior analysis or a related field. One has 315 hours of approved coursework. One has 270 hours of approved coursework. So what is about a 45-hour difference there. When you go into the required full coursework breakdown, again, it takes that 315 and 270, it breaks it down into those topics that are listed before you. When we look at experience hours required, there are 2,000 hours of supervised independent field work or 1,500 hours of concentrated supervised field work versus 1,500 hours of supervised independent field work. We have a discussion about the field work categories, the supervisory requirements, qualifications, the supervisor format, et cetera. And these are meant to be a factual side-by-side comparison of what we learned at the summit and what we've heard. And I don't know if.
Well, I would just add
Please.
that when the law was adopted in the Senate bill that created the licensure, the requirements were identical.
Say that again.
The QABA requirements and BACB requirements were the same. Those 270 hours for BA.
What year was that?
2017?
2017 is when the
Senate
statute.
Bill 580.
Okay. When did they change?
BACB, what did they add? I believe, I don't know. I cannot tell
That
you
was
definitively.
2022, Commissioner, when the BACB hours increased for both the supervision and the coursework.
Okay.
Until 2022, and I'm not sure the month and date, it was also 270 and the 1,500 supervisory hours.
Hang on here. Is there anything else on the sheet that you want to go through, highlight?
I wouldn't, unless you all have any specific questions or
Okay.
Steve, did you? No.
We're gonna go, Commissioner, go ahead.
Okay. Council, can you walk me through the statute? What specifically it requires and what it says?
Absolutely. So the issue at hand is whether to recognize this additional entity, QABA, as a certifying entity. And that definition under the statute, certifying entity means the Nationally Accredited Behavior Analyst Certification Board, BACB, or another entity that is accredited by the National Commission for Certifying Agencies or the American National Standards Institute to issue credentials in the professional practice of applied behavior analysis and approved by the department. And that's what is at issue here, is whether they're approved by the department. So the reason that BACB is in the discussion is because they're the standard set by the statute. And so the question is whether QABA is equivalent to BACB as part of their certification. And the pieces of that we have to look at are whether the educational requirements are equivalent and also whether the examination requirements are equivalent. Those are, for purposes of our licensees, those are the two pieces we look at, or is those equivalent education and examination requirements. And so that's the heart of the issue.
Does the statute specifically say how many hours are needed, as Mr. Ricker said?
It does not.
How about for the degree, what it is, 270s? That's what I heard was minimum required, and somehow magically the BACB has bumped it up to 315 or something. Is that fair?
In 2022, they bumped it up.
Okay.
Correct, Courtney? Yes, Courtney Arbor, Executive Director. We don't know all of the detail that led to their decision to increase the hours, but to Steve's earlier point, the hours were 270 and 1,500 until 2022 when they increased.
Okay. Going back about this one, I think, Chair, I had the privilege of talking to council to get some additional information. There is a DEI requirement of 2 CEUs. That's what it was laid out in the BACB. So I asked him, how does it conflict with the state law right there, which is Senate Bill 17 and the governor's executive order? Can you elaborate for all of us?
And so that bill addressed universities, institutions of higher education, and required that they not have an office for DEI or DEI training requirements.
Okay, hold on. DEI training requirements. Does it specifically say directly at the university or DEI requirements for training purposes?
It's a very long statute. I can't tell you off,
Fair enough,
my
fair enough.
offhand. But we looked at that and we determined that it would not affect our licensure decisions here because we're not a university of higher education. Now, whether a university who is offering one of these courses somehow violates that bill in the course of providing that course, that's a separate issue. That's not really before us today.
Okay. The reason I'm asking you a question is with respect to the DEI, knowing someone may have issues or something down the line. Based on the BACB, it says that beginning 21-27, January 2027, they're required to have 2 CEUs. What happens if a Texan says that I don't want to do that one? Do we know what is the ramifications of that?
I'm not sure I understand your
So if
question.
a Texas licensee says who's on the BACB certification, fair enough? And if a Texan says that one, I'm not going to take that DEI CEUs, is there anything in the BACB provisions that they're exempt or some sort of a language? Have you seen anything?
I don't know. I have not
Thank
seen anything to address that.
Thank you.
Any other questions, commissioners?
I just had, I know that there was a public comment regarding the D, since we're talking about the DEI. Just wanted to clarify that the Texaba rep was the one who brought that up in the summit. I was present by video and it's on video. So I just wanted to clarify that since there was a public comment regarding that. Is that true?
The summit is archived, yes, ma'am, and I believe that your statement is accurate about what was said at the summit. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am, and like all of our advisory boards, that is archived on our website and also available on YouTube
So
searches.
anybody can view it?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. It is publicly
Find it
available.
out.
It is publicly available. Absolutely.
And Carlos, did you have some? You're good?
Yeah, no, I'm just gonna wait for them to talk because I want to talk definitely about this subject.
I just have one more question.
Sure.
About the, also during the public comments, there were comments made about BABA only, presenting autism content. And I wanted to know, in your study of BABA, what % they actually have in their coursework directed to autism?
Yes, yes, Commissioner.
And what % they have toward applied behavior analytics?
I can answer with the numbers, not the percentages, because my
Okay.
math skills are
Okay,
limited.
that's
But if you look on page 1 of the comparison we prepared for you, you'll see that in the second column, which is the QUALBA, there are, of 270 hours, there are 20 dedicated to autism spectrum disorders. Was that if I'm answering your question?
And that's 5%, I believe, is what I've
I'll-
heard.
I'll take your word for
5%,
that.
and the rest is the regular applied behavior analyst coursework.
Well, yes, as you see in the chart, we break out the legal, ethical, professional considerations, core principles of ABA, et cetera, that those hours cover.
Okay.
That's all I have for now.
Dr. Callis? You're on mute, sir. Dr. Callis, you're on mute.
Oh, I knew I was on mute. Sorry, Chair. So when you're comparing qualified applied behavioral analysis hours to behavior analysis certification board hours, the key difference between QABA requires 1,500 hours of field work with 5% supervision, while BACB typically requires 2,000 hours of supervised field work with 5% supervision. As a physician and a leader of healthcare in the state of Texas, is that 500 hours is a big deal. When you put patient safety first and you make that the standard, and you've just said even in the statute that the standard is based on one of those, not the other ones, and the standard for them is now 2,000 hours. I just have a problem when you have 500 hours less that there's no standard comparing either one. And I'm not going to I don't care if it was A versus B, Z versus F. When you put patient care first and 2,000 hours is the standard, based on what you just said was in the statute, I don't know how we can authorize someone with 1,500 hours saying that is equal to 2,000 hours. That's just my question to begin with.
But it's not in the statute, correct?
The statute does not give a number of hours.
Right.
I know, but I didn't say it gives a statute a number of hours. You said that the one entity that's already licensing everyone is the standard. And if the standard changes on hours, the standard is the hours that is received by the entity that is part of the certification process.
The standard just changed in 2022.
I know.
It was
I deal with
1,500.
standards all the time as a physician, and I guarantee you that just like residency changes, medical school changes, the standard becomes just like under the Medical Practice Act, whatever the Texas Medical Board states as a standard. That's why our standards are held at the highest level. That medical schools that want to come in, they have to hit at the minimal threshold of any standard at a medical school coming in the 16 medical schools in the state of Texas.
Thank you, Dr. Collins. Do you want to?
Yeah, well, that would be, I guess we should look at the statute. I mean, you've just given your opinion about what the statute says. He's saying, I think, that BACB is the standard.
That's what I was told, Commissioner, what he just said.
Right, so the statute requires that the educational requirements of the certifying entity be equivalent to those of the BACB.
Thank you.
And the determinant of the staff, so they're equivalent.
I don't think staff has made a stated determination on that fact. That's what we're asking you to help determine.
If I may, Mr. Chair. I believe, I think this is a very thoughtful and factual discussion, and I appreciate that. I would like to say, we've been here before with different programs where the standard setter was the only one that we allowed. So by default, it's the standard, right? We did this in midwifery. We did it in boilers, where we had to go our own way. And we said, Texas is not going to be the tail that's wagged by Florida, and Pennsylvania, and New York, and all the different states that have gotten together and said, this is our standard. Because those values are not necessarily Texas values. And with the DEI component, they don't allow freedom of thought in a political sense where Texas does. And so this happens over time. You'll see it's happened before in my tenure here with midwifery, with boilers, that a political consideration trumps the service that's provided by the service provider. And here we are again. Texas stands for freedom of the consumer to pick who they want, the freedom of the caregiver to not be subject to a monopolistic tyranny of a political ideology. And we're here again. We fight this monster every few years on this commission. And here we are. So I want y'all to keep that in mind as we go forward. I have a motion at some point, but I would like to ask a couple of questions of the staff.
Just can I add to that?
Yes, please.
Regarding the fact that the BACB does contain and DEI is infused through their program content, is that correct? I mean, it's not only the fact that in 2027, the CEUs will be required for DEI, it's also now that their program content is infused with the DEI principles. Is that correct?
The only time that DI is mentioned from the comparison chart that we've been able to put together is specific to the CEUs. I can't determine based on the titles of the coursework breakdown what may or may not be in those courses, but I can say that based on what we've seen, none of the coursework uses that specific term. That specific term is found in the CE requirements.
CE, the 2 hours.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, to that point. I know you had a motion. I want to make sure before you, if there's any other comment, Commissioner.
Well, I think it's significant that one entity will require DEI CEUs. I know when I did CEUs, I would not have appreciated being made to take any CEUs on DEI. So having a choice between 2 certifying bodies would have been quite liberating. I mean, you mentioned freedom, and in nursing, we did have that choice, not because of political concerns or DEI, but I'm just saying that is an advantage to licensing WABA. You will have one entity that believes in meritocracy and the other for DEI. I know in Texas, everybody has their own opinions. Fine, let them have the choice.
Thank you, Commissioner.
That,
Any other
that's,
comments? Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
that's,
Hang on, Dr. Callis. Go ahead.
So my issue or lack of understanding is why is there a problem in allowing them to come in? I mean, right now, we just have one BA, what is it? BACBU. We just have them. Why is it an issue to have someone else enter the realm of the world of behavior?
I think what they're saying, Commissioner, is that there's a debate of whether it's equivalent. The statute has the equivalency issue, so that's what they're looking at. And our decision is whether that's equivalent. The staff is giving us the facts. Our decision will be whether it's equivalent or not. That make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Dr. Callis, did you have something?
Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and argue about DEI versus non-DEI with QABA versus BACP. I'm more concerned about I think DEI is crap. I think that we should strive to have the best, the brightest, and the smartest in the state and also in the U.S. be qualified to deliver whatever kind of profession they want to do. DEI is ruining the state of Texas and is ruining America because it should be the best and the highly qualified people representing that profession. That's just to get off my chest. My biggest concern for the commissioner, and I want to make it very clear, 500 hours when you're training someone in a healthcare space is a lot of bad mistraining. And you can talk to Commissioner High. She'll agree with me. When she's a nurse practitioner, if she didn't have 500 extra hours of training, she would definitely not be supporting another nurse practitioner school that was 500 less hours. I promise you that.
All right, Commissioner, wait, hang on. Commissioner, we don't want to do that. We're not
No,
addressing.
I'm not being disrespectful. I'm
I know,
saying
I'm just telling
that
you.
as I'm very passionate about this, that if the standard is 2,000 hours, I'm not going to vote for something lowering the standard to 1,500. I can't.
Commissioner, I got you, but we don't want to address it to a specific commissioner on the commission, but I got you.
No, I
agree.
wasn't being disrespectful. I was
It's
using
okay.
her
I
as
mean,
her profession.
Okay, go ahead, Commissioner High.
Well, I was just gonna say that there's a big difference in the number of hours between physicians and nurse practitioners also.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, but that's two different categories, and physicians are way up there regarding education and experience versus where nurse practitioners and PAs are. So that's like, apples and oranges there. But this is just different. It's a different, it's like two different programs, the way I look at it.
Hang on, did you have a comment?
I just wanted to share that the staff has done an unbelievable job on researching this and looking over on the comparison and came up with the equivalency that falls within the statute, that we've got. And I agree that, having a second choice is a plus for the state of Texas.
Let her know there is no disrespect.
Definitely.
Looking at this big picture right there, I think what it is it's coming down to the choice versus de-stated right there. One entity was embedded and they can change the goalpost or something to basically monopolize the system out right there. So for example, what I keep hearing these hours or something, the difference is I think people who go to a DO school and then they come back, they're still called doctors. And same thing, they go to the medical school and they get their MD, they're also called doctors. So if a patient wants to see a guy who went to DO school or a medical school or something, they can make a choice. But what is troubling to me is the DEI component. We don't need to get dragged into this political spectrum of what it is, because I understand council's position that it is restricted only to the universities or something. Someone may file a bill or something because they're probably seeing this, what is happening. And again, we are back to square one right there. But I think, we have to be very clear. Consumers have a choice right there. People want to go see a BACB, let them go see a BACB. or if they want to see equal to whoever it is, if we, as a body, we got to set the standards, maybe this is time we got to set, whether it is 2,000 hours or 3,000 hours or whatever, 10,000 hours, we need to sit down and get to the bottom of it. And I think, we got to tell them, not some certifying agencies or certifying nonprofit or something. We, as Texans, we're going to set up a bar right there. You all want to meet this? Come in right there. After that, let's go move on right there.
Good. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think this might be a good time to talk about the past, right? In midwifery, we had the same kind of problems. Midwives were coming from Arkansas, from Louisiana, from Oklahoma that had been chased out of their states because of bad acts. So they came to Texas. There was no national repository of information for bad acts. And states were other states were behind the curve in keeping up with bad actors in their own states. So they would come to Texas with their bad habits and put Texas lives at jeopardy. And I will tell you, we lost some lives because of bad midwifery. And so Texas decided to go its own way and create its own licensing scheme. We were the standard setter for the nation when we did that because our standards were better. Our ability to track bad actors was better. And so I can see us doing that again in this program. Whether one qualifying entity or the other qualifying entity is better, that's always going to be a matter of subjective opinion. I think that we as a state need to say, this is what we expect of behavioral analysts. And I think that we should create our own model, our own schema, and not be beholden to Pennsylvania and New York for their schema and their influence into our state. Here, we believe in freedom. Here, we believe in meritocracy. Let the best person, the best service provider, provide those services to whoever wants it and not be bound by a political ideology that they may not agree with. I think it's time for us to say, this is what we want to allow in Texas. So I think we come up with our own ideas, our own model, and we say to the certifying entity, if you want to practice in Texas, this is what you need to do, and hit that goal. And so if it comports with the BABC, that's great. If it comports with the QBABC, that's great. But if it doesn't, then you need to go somewhere else. And we need to do the same thing we did with midwifery. And so
Is there a motion
I
buried
would
in
like
there
somewhere in there, there's a motion. So, but if I want to, if you tell me when it's time for the discussion.
I think, is there any more discussion? You're welcome to make the motion anytime you want.
Okay.
But what I hear you telling me now, I want to recap, is for the commission, and commissioners, you're welcome to direct your questions to the commission. Is you're saying that you're looking at creating TDLR's own qualifying spectrum.
Correct.
Right? That could encompass all these things into a factor, right?
Yes.
Okay, so there's two issues here. That, the other issue is whether we include QABA into this. And so there's two different issues. So I just want to clarify how you present your motion is up to you. But that's kind of,
So
is there,
I'm glad you said that, because I hadn't thought about that in that part of the motion discussion. But I'd like to see a time frame set for sunsetting everybody, BABC, QABC, whatever happens today. But give us some time as an agency and as a state to come up with our own qualifying criteria as to what constitutes a behavioral analyst in Texas. And a pox on everybody's house. And I know we're bound by statute. I understand it. I understand that the statute says a certifying entity they have to belong to a certifying entity, correct?
If I could offer a suggestion, so in our Chapter 51 authority, we do have authority to recognize alternative qualifications. The commission, department, or executive director may adopt alternative means of determining or verifying a person's eligibility for a license issued by the department, including evaluating the person's education, training, experience, and military service. So if you're seeking for us to have our own standards, our Chapter 51 authority does allow us to establish that. I think that's kind
so
of.
the second half of your comment is, yes, we could establish that if you wanted to make that motion. The first half is whether we, hang on. The first half is whether QABA included into that, and if you want that time frame. So I need you in your motion to address those issues or which individuals you want to address.
Okay. So I'd like to make a motion to allow Quava to come in to the behavioral analyst fold. I would then like to further say, give the agency a year to study and determine a modeling schema that can be informed by both certifying entities and their qualifications, but to come up with our own. I don't want to be beholden to New York and Pennsylvania. We are different. And
we won't put that in motion, but so let me.
Feel free. Feel free.
Can you split it up and make it easy because?
Let me
No, I don't
make
think I
it easy.
can.
I think the motion on the table is, before I get anything else, the motion on the table, correct me if I'm wrong, Vice Chair, is to include Quava into the behavior analyst role, right? To include, also have a year where our staff brings up independent qualifications for behavior analysts within the state of Texas.
To develop our own schema in licensing.
Which will force anybody with, be in compliance of that state, those scheme.
So I want to take what Dr. Callis
But
said.
I want to make sure.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
okay. Is that your motion?
Yes, that's it.
Okay, then give me, before you comment, is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
There's a second motion. Okay, now we can go discussion.
Okay. So I'd like to consider what Dr. Callis said, right? So if the standard right now is 2,000 and somebody comes in at 1,500 and they can point to an independent entity, right? The agency to say, this is what the state of Texas requires. Truly the state of Texas, a subdivision of the state, that this is what we have decided constitutes a behavioral analyst in this state, absent all the political stuff, right? So I want to try to take what Dr. Callis said to heart, and I want to understand, what Commissioner High says and incorporate all of those things into a best practices, right? Something that's maybe a hybrid of everybody so that we can all have some input on what the best for Texans are. And not just the Texans that are receiving the services, but the poor Texans who just want to serve and give medical care and are stranded on an island because they're surrounded by political sharks that want to force an ideology onto them. And all they want to do is take care of kids, right? And so that's the rationale.
Okay. Any other comments on the motion?
Oh, yeah. I'm going to vote no on this motion. And the reason why is because we're now changing the whole playing field to where if you're requiring me to, because I want to be not QABA, I want to be QABC, I have to still do 2,000 hours. But if I decide now to go to QABA, I only have to do 1,500. You're going to bias people more toward the 1,500 hours than the 2,000 hours. I really think that's a huge mistake. I think we should have standardization if we're going to set a floor.
Yeah, okay. Yes, sir.
I think that's what Commissioner Vice Chair Butler was saying, that let's come up with the standards, what it is. But at this time, again, a choice, we are here for a choice right there. If I understand you correctly, that if someone wants to go to BACB license, or maybe once we adopt whatever it is, that's their choice right there. Well, but I think, again, we thrive in a free market right here. That's what we thought about it. Fair enough, Chair?
Yes.
For the market purposes, what it is?
I'm trying to be Switzerland here, but yes, I understand your point.
Thank you.
Any other comments on that motion? Okay. Okay. Yeah, we're going to vote for the motion.
I just have one. And it just refers to another one of the public comments where I think two of them said, voiced the same feeling that I had after I got out of nursing, which was, that wasn't enough. Those clinical hours weren't enough. I don't know that it's ever enough. Just to, throw that out there.
Okay. All right. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed?
I'd like a roll call vote so I can be documented saying no, please, sir.
You got it, Dr. Callis. All right, roll call.
Commissioner Sujit Chakram,
Aye.
Commissioner Lori High,
Aye.
Dr. Gary Wesson,
Aye.
Commissioner Nora Castaneda. Aye. Dr. Ray Callis,
Adamantly no.
Vice Chair Tom Butler,
Aye.
Chairman Rick Figueroa.
Aye. Aye. Motion carries. Staff, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time here today. Thank you for your efforts. We appreciate what you guys have done, and we look forward to continuing talking to you on getting this to where it needs to be. Appreciate it. All right, we're gonna go to contested cases. Let me read this real quick. Is there anybody here? There's no- Okay, so commissioners, we're gonna go to item G on contested cases. Number one, Mr. Hurtado. Go ahead.
Morning. Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Jessica Hurtado, and I'm a prosecutor in the Enforcement Division. The ALJ recommends that you deny Juan J. Solis's application to renew his apprentice electrician license, and that you revoke that license based on his criminal history and because he made a false statement on his renewal application submitted to the department. In 2007, respondent was licensed as an apprentice electrician. In 2010, he was convicted of 2 misdemeanor offenses, assault and failure to identify to a police officer. The department continued to renew respondent's license in spite of these offenses until that license expired in 2019. Beginning in October 2021, respondent was involved in a criminal scheme to steal various types of copper from his employer. Over the course of approximately 4 months, respondent took over 1,600 pounds of copper cable, as well as over 170 pounds of other types of copper wire from the plant where he was employed. Respondent sold this copper to a third party, the combined value of which was estimated at approximately $79,000. Respondent was 33 years old when this offense occurred. In October 2022, respondent again received his apprentice electrician license. Then, on August 3rd, 2023, the respondent pled guilty to felony theft, and the court placed him on 3 years of deferred adjudication community supervision. On November 28, 2023, respondent submitted his renewal application and answered no to the criminal history question. This answer was false. At the hearing, respondent testified that he only works in industrial settings and he has worked for various employers since his most recent offense. Regarding the renewal application, respondent testified that his wife submitted the application for him on his behalf. The ALJ notes that the respondent's offenses are all directly related to the licensed occupation of electricians. Additionally, his most recent offense involved stealing from his employer, something that can occur even in an industrial setting. Finally, the ALJ notes that these offenses were not mere acts of youthful indiscretion, and respondent provided no letters of recommendation to support his fitness for licensure. Based on these factors, the ALJ concludes that not enough time has yet passed for respondent to establish a record of good conduct. Therefore, respondent is not currently fit to hold a license. The ALJ recommends that you deny the respondent's renewal application for his apprentice electrician license and revoke that license. I ask that you adopt the PFD as written, and I'm available to answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yes, sir.
I just have a question. This seems to be a repeat offender. You know, do we get a point? I mean, does he apply next year and we have to make sure that we've got all this documented 2 years down the road? Or I guess he always has an opportunity to apply again, but can we mark it?
We do. In our legal file system, we track respondents by their, it's called a name card, but we track their prior cases and we have all those documents, so we don't need to go get them again.
It's looking like we
Yeah.
can see this again.
Okay.
I think I was about to ask the same question as Commissioner Weston asked. I think we need to look into the licensing right there. If anyone is applying with respect to it, like when you're trying to fly, you have a do not fly list. Maybe you all need to have something like that one. So please do not apply. That's what it is.
Licensing and enforcement work very closely together to.
Yeah, there's a lot of denials.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Is there a motion?
Yes, so move to adopt PFD.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, next case.
Thank you. Jessica Hurtado, Enforcement Division. The ALJ recommends that you deny Ricardo D. Brooks' application to renew his apprentice electrician license and revoke that license based on his criminal history. I ask that you adopt the PFD with a technical correction that I'll discuss at the end. In 2019, the respondent and 3 other individuals were involved in a sexual assault of a victim, a woman who had been out drinking that evening with her family.
At some point, she was separated from her group and awoke the next day with no memory of what had occurred. According to video footage taken from the scene, the victim appeared to be in a state of unconsciousness, unable to move her body on her own, while four individuals repeatedly engaged in sexual contact with her. The respondent was arrested after being identified as one of these individuals on the tape. In 2023, he pled guilty to and was convicted of indecent assault, and he was sentenced to 70 days in jail. Respondent testified at the hearing that he was unaware he was pleading to an indecency charge and generally denied that he was involved in the offense. In his written explanation to the department, respondent stated he was unaware of the assault and was intoxicated at the time the offense occurred. Respondent also introduced testimony of several character witnesses, including his stepfather and two of his friends. They all testified that the offense did not align with what they knew about the respondent's character. In considering the Chapter 53 factors, the ALJ notes that respondent was 31 years old at the time of the offense. He provided no evidence to establish his conduct and work activity either before or after the incident. Although respondent argues that he pled guilty to the offense due to the poor advice of his attorney, the ALJ concludes that conviction cannot be disregarded for this reason. The ALJ notes that respondent did not demonstrate that he had taken any steps to avoid being in a similar situation in the future, and while his witnesses testified to his character, both his friends admitted they did not understand the full context of the events, and one of the individuals had only known respondent for a matter of months. Finally, the ALJ notes that during his testimony, the respondent expressed no remorse for his actions and cast himself as the victim. These findings underscore the complete lack of any rehabilitative effort made by the respondent. Based on the foregoing, the ALJ concludes that these factors weigh against the respondent at this time, and therefore the ALJ recommends that you deny the respondent's renewal application and revoke his apprentice electrician license. In conclusion of law number 13, the ALJ cites to the prior version of 51-4012A, which no longer applies to a criminal history case. And then I ask that you delete conclusion of law 13 and modify conclusion of law number 14 to remove the citation to 51.4012A. And with these modifications, I ask that you adopt the PFD, and I'm available to answer questions.
Is there a motion with those modifications? For questions first? Okay, motion.
So moved with
Second.
modifications.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Motions for rehearing. Mr. Jennings. Item H.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Commissioners. Doug Jennings, General Counsel for TDLR. We have one motion for rehearing today, and this is the matter of Anthony Hunter Rice. This case resulted from a default order in which the department revoked Mr. Rice's apprentice electrician license based on his criminal history. In Mr. Rice's motion for rehearing, he states that TDLR's decision was improper because it was based on previous criminal offenses that he had disclosed to TDLR. While he had disclosed his previous, most of his previous offenses to TDLR, and he has a lengthy criminal history, the most recent two offenses he did not disclose. In January 2023, he was convicted of felony burglary of a building. And in August of 23, he was convicted of misdemeanor assault against a family member causing bodily injury. So the revocation is based on failure to disclose and his criminal history generally. So we would recommend that you deny this motion for rehearing. Happy to answer any questions.
Any question, Commissioner? I'll take a motion.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jennings. Mr. Burkhalter. Rules, item I.
Good morning again. I'm Derek Burkhalter, Deputy General Counsel for TDLR. Today our rules items are very short. We only have a rule review for you. As you know, every 4 years we have to do a review of each of our rule chapters to make sure that they're still necessary and that they're not obsolete. So this round we have 4 rule chapters. Chapter 97, which is our motor fuels program. Chapter 98, which is our motorcycle safety program, Chapter 99, which is our ATV or off-highway vehicle program, and Chapter 120, which is our dyslexia therapy program. So we published the notice of intent to review these rules in the Texas Register on May 24th. The public comment period closed 30 days later on June 24th. We received only 4 comments. Most of those comments were recommending changes to the rules, but of course at this phase, we don't do changes, we just re-adopt them as a whole. But we're gonna take these comments and look at them and possibly propose future rulemaking changes to you in the future. So we analyzed the rules and determined that yes, they are still necessary, and no, they're not obsolete. And so we are recommending that you re-adopt these rules as they currently exist with an effective date of December 16th.
Any questions? I'll take a motion.
Don't move.
Do a second? Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, we're gonna go to executive reports.
What a change.
Courtney,
Executive report is from-
just a second before you do that. Mr. Jennings, I want to come back to item J, okay? In that motion, it was clear that a year to put something together, okay? I want to make sure that when we do that, any commissioners, Dr. Callis, Commissioner High, Dr. Weston are included in that conversation, or anybody else is in that conversation to make sure that that reconciliation process or that standard by which Commissioner Vice Chair Butler talked about. So I want to make it noted that we have a year, which is a year from today to do. Now, it can be done sooner. It doesn't have to be a year, okay? But that's, I want to follow up with that and make sure that our advisory boards, the commissions who are passionate about this issue are involved in that, okay?
Yes, sir, absolutely. What we'll do, and I was just discussing this with staff, is that as a result of your decision today, we're going to put together an order. As plainly as possible, spelling out the decision. And it is going to be to recognize QABA as a certifying entity under Chapter 506 of the Occupations Code, and also directing staff to develop standards, some objective standards for certification under Chapter 506, and that we have 1 year from that. So we will prepare that, put it in writing for you. Absolutely.
The reason I'm saying this is my concern is the end user.
Right.
That's where, so we don't have to wait for a year, and we don't have, so we can expedite this and bring that back up, and I will bring that up on any agenda item when necessary.
Yes, sir. And point of clarification, just want to make sure that on the timing, I understand we've been directed to work to analyze the issue, look at objective standards. Is it the expectation that in a year we will be presenting rules implementing that?
Or prior.
Okay.
Or prior. Best
Okay,
practices.
absolutely.
The idea is the best practice is a solution to that, what we're trying to do, okay?
So does that mean QABA can start already?
Yes.
We will initiate this process. And Courtney, please jump in if you have thoughts about doing it differently. But for documentation purposes, we're going to put together a memo and attach the order that lays this all out, make it very clear, for tracking purposes that there will be a start date as soon as practicable. I mean, we're taking this and we're running with your recommendation.
I don't want to rehash the thing. I just want
Understood.
to outline that in specifics about the timeline and making sure that each person involved in this discussion has that opportunity to get involved, whether it's commission, QABA, BACB, whatever it could be. I want to make sure that applies to you getting that done. And it could be presented sooner. It doesn't have to be a year. Okay.
And just as a point of clarification, Chairman, I would just add, and Doug, I think you were kind of going there. We will be on our way to rulemaking within a year, but there will be some deliberation, some analysis of the curricula that we need to do to set our own standards on number of hour requirements. And so while the rule package may not be complete in a year, we will have a decision on what we think the standards should look like and be on the way.
Correct.
And we've always been really good as an agency about bringing in all the parties. Let's hear what everybody has to say. This is how good things get done. We listen to everybody. Nobody is below anybody. Listen to what everybody has to say. QABA, BACB, maybe some people that are the beneficiaries of these counseling services. I mean, bring everybody to the table. Let's do the best we can. We have a shot at it. let's make it the standard, the gold standard that we are.
And I don't want to get rid of it, I just want to make sure we get one. Okay? Thank you. All right, executive.
Steve Bruno will give first executive staff update.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I'm happy to have the chance to brag about the three divisions. I have the privilege of overseeing as Deputy Director of Licensing Services. I will not go in alphabetical order because I've got just saved one for last. So I'll start with alphabetical order, customer service. The team is doing some amazing training today, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. We were able to have the chairman go up and quickly say hello to the customer service staff, and I've already heard from Director Craig Howard. They appreciated that very much.
My honor.
October, 40,432 contacts answered. November, 28,612 contacts answered by the 51 staff members of customer service. I'll jump to licensing to highlight the recent work of the licensing division. You all are receiving the reports from me, and you get your commission update. October, we had 20,895 new licenses issued and 40,485 renewals. That's done by the 73 members of licensing. Education and examination. Today, the 18 team members of education and examination are continuing to approve curriculum and answer emails and work with schools, hosting some excellent live sessions with the schools, working through some of our various processes so that they can report the hours that the students need. There's some great work underway, but the announcement I'm sharing with you is bittersweet. On Monday, Ray Pizarro let me know that he will be retiring from TDLR. Ray Pizarro is our Director of Education and Examination. He shared that with the entire department this week, and I now have the privilege, and you can hear it in my voice, the emotion of sharing that news. Ray Pizarro has served the state of Texas as a public servant and a public employee for 33 years. He began, I don't know if this had much to do with Ray. He spent his first 12 years at an agency that changed names 3 times while he was there. I don't know if you had anything to do with that, Ray. Ray started at what was called the Water Commission. It became then the Texas Natural Resource Conservation Commission, and then what we know today as the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. Maybe the name changes got to him. For 21 years, he's been a member of our TDLR family. When I first met Ray in 2007, I was hired as Government Relations Officer, and he was in the Education and Examination Department, where today he's Director of that department. Ray, we can't thank you enough for all that you've done for us at TDLR, for the countless licensees through education and examination, and future licensees, the students that we always talk about who are sitting today in barber school, cosmetology classes, massage therapy classes. It's a tremendous legacy that you're going to leave. As I told you before, I'm not happy for us, but I'm more happy for Ray Pizarro, my friend, and you. You have more than earned what you're about to enjoy, and I wish you and Terry the best. Enjoy that.
Ray, just 2 things. One is Moses didn't get started till he was 80, so you got a little time. But thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes my report, and I'm here for any questions.
Question, Chair.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes, sir.
the context right there, how do y'all keep up 40,000 right there? Do you have a counter or something? And,
There's some very sophisticated electronics that a team of analysts in the customer service division uses to keep track of that. We've got some.
We are not spending too much time on those counter block.
No, sir. No, sir. We have very modern tools. I promise.
Okay. Chair, I want to recognize Heather, because I think, Mr. Bruno has sent the information right there about the amount of work they're doing. The report I've been requesting, I think, as if you recall, Mr. Bruno, go ahead and speak for yourself, the numbers, what it is.
Oh,
The licenses.
yes, it's an incredible amount of work that the licensing division has undertaken since Heather's become director.
For the record, I think as they said, 20,000 plus or minus.
Yes, sir.
And 40,000 renewals right there. And some of them, like, we have so many discussions right here on this side, whatever it is, the time frame, there are zero, there are no backlogs right there, which is quite astonishing right there. The minute they come in, they're gone right there.
It's a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Well done. Okay, Courtney?
Susanna.
Or-
All right, good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, Dr. Callis. I am Susanna Holt-Patron, Deputy Executive Director over Regulatory Services. Since you've got our performance measures in your notebook, staff is off this fiscal year to a strong start. Field inspections have corrected 821 violations on site to date, just from September 1 through mid-October. They're on track to do 30,000 inspections this year. I have been getting really involved with the vacancy rate of our divisions and working with staff to fill positions. There are certain constraints. It takes a lot of time to screen, interview, and hire, but currently my divisions have an average vacancy rate of 12%. My goal is to get that down to 5%, to have all the boots on the ground working and continuing to improve our performance metrics. Also working with HR to recruit and strategically prioritize filling the critical vacancies. I got trained on the orders process this week by John Medlock, so I'll be contributing to closing out, helping with the closing out and execution of the read orders and the default judgments, et cetera. And then next steps is to address operating procedures and take a look at any potential silos and work with teams to determine the best methods to increase throughput and correspondingly customer service. I'm really pleased to be working with all of the staff here and our team under Courtney's leadership in supporting the mission of the agency, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may.
Welcome again.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Mr. Trump, I have a concern on the enforcement. Because if you look at it, enforcement, we are closing, the percent complaints closed within 6 months is 60%. I think it came down from last year. Unfortunately, the average time to close complaints is increased from 174 or 175 days to 207 right there, which is past about 7 months or something. I'm assuming that this is going to climb because of staff issues what you're having. I think between you and the executive director, you all need to come up with a plan of what it is to see how we can lower it to maybe like how the licensing guys are, it's a competition right there, how we can lower it.
Yes, sir. Yes, I want to just add that number is for a 45-day period from September 1 through October 15th. And you are correct that the vacancy rate is a factor. The prosecution's classification attorneys have a 20% vacancy rate currently, but we're working hard to remedy that, and we'll continue to have that number go down.
If you keep on increasing the enforcement right there, I think which ought to increase more, you're probably going to see more. I think, maybe we got to look into some alternative models or something, how we can get speedy justice to these enforcement cases. So look forward in hearing back your feedback.
Yes, sir. And Courtney will speak to this, but a lot of many significant resources in enforcement as well as other divisions are going to the anti-trafficking efforts. And so that is also a component of the bump in the dates for closure.
Thank you.
And I will just add in the legislative appropriation request, there are positions added specifically to support this, which we know will help us to do more, but also reduce backlogs. But to your point, they are actively looking. I mean, I think Doug and Suzanne and Ron and Derek have had conversations just this week about process and the staffing and the way we're staffing to get the best production through enforcement.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Susanna. Oh, perfect timing. Okay. I did great for the 30 seconds. I'm just kidding.
No coup? There's no coup, right? Come on. Okay.
It was quick. I have one last update, unless Commissioner Butler, were you about to say something?
Oh, he's back.
Don't give him any.
Okay, all right.
Don't give him any.
All right.
Four score 30 years ago.
Courtney Arbor, Executive Director, I just wanted to provide a few updates. First, I just wanted to thank Commissioner Weston and Commissioner Hyde for participating in this summit and really digging into the details of the QABA and the BACB. I know all of you have, but the participation in that summit and all of the kind of fact-finding leading up to it and the conversations after, it just shows a lot. It says a lot about your investment in the customers who will ultimately benefit from behavioral analyst services. So I wanted to thank you all actually for your level of interest in our programs, and particularly this one. You may have heard about a combative sports event recently in Arlington, the Jake Paul, Mike Tyson fight. I just wanted to say thank you to the staff. In fact, a lot of the faces in the room right now played a part in the planning of that event, executing that event, overseeing that event, and not only just the combative sports team, which of course is Chris Rusty, Greg Alvarez, Gus and the team were there on site, but also Tila, Jeff, Doug Jennings, Robert Reyes were there. I mean, in real-time chat on anything that might have looked concerning, and then certainly through the media follow-up. So this has been a team effort. I'll just also mention, since I just mentioned the legislative appropriation request, there are some events we've had to turn down because of lack of capacity. And so we heard from the promoter at that very event that they'd like to do more business in Texas. So in our legislative appropriation request that you approved, we asked for additional staff member in combative sports.
Sarber, how many events have we turned down for the record?
I saw the list recently,
40.
Okay.
45 events?
Yes.
That's a lot of.
Different types of events throughout the state, but yes, due to lack of capacity, 45-ish.
And the reason being personnel?
Staff, correct. Personnel to cover all of those. But it's a great team effort, and the Tyson Paul was certainly an all hands on deck effort. I just want to say thank you to the team.
Do you have anything else?
I have a couple of other
Go ahead,
updates
I'm gonna finish up,
unrelated
but
to
yeah, go ahead.
Okay. The legislature is very active right now. You're seeing some updates from me. In fact, you'll see another one today about the bills that have filed that either directly or indirectly may impact TDLR if passed. We have 126 bills so far that we're tracking, and the team is analyzing. Jeff and Alex, and of course, Tony, who do the fiscal analysis, and Brandy. That also is a team effort, and the activity has already picked up. I mentioned to you at the last meeting that we had really become more involved in some of the community events, job fairs, career awareness events for youth. The Texas Workforce Commission and the Workforce Solutions offices have been kind enough to allow us to have a booth at events like that. And so our compliance team and HR have been attending a number of events with the TDLR table, a lot of our collateral, and we're not only promoting the TDLR vacancies that we have, but also being a liaison to the community. So Jeff Kopus and Alex Hammond send a note to our legislators who are in those areas before we go out to let them know they can send constituents out to talk with us, or if they'd like to come by, they can. That we invite them to come and see us. Since September, we've sent 20 of those notices to legislators, and in last month, Representative Tenderholt and his chief of staff came by to one of the events in Arlington. So, and we've seen that when they've had a question about licensing, they'll be able to refer them out to us when we're in the area so that they can have some face-to-face contact. Yes, Commissioner Castaneda.
So if this is a workforce effort and we're joining in, are we also trying to do some teaching about inviting these people that workforce is getting? Are we trying to maybe explain to them about the licenses and so forth, or?
Informally, a lot of that is happening. Informally, the meeting hosts, who happen to be the Workforce Solutions offices, who also work with employers or job seekers to help make those connections, are getting to know our staff. Our staff have said that they've really enjoyed it because they're also learning about the activities that are available. So I'll say there's a grassroots effort for some cross-training through this discussion. A quick update on our anti-trafficking efforts. You know about our ability to issue emergency orders to close down massage establishments when local law enforcement or we find signs of human trafficking. That authority came with House Bill 3579, Representative Baumgartner. We have issued with, again, I look across this room and I see a lot of people that are involved. 36 massage establishments have been closed through 16 emergency orders. And so we are continuing that effort, and we're seeing a lot. You're seeing the press releases. We've had some good results there. And so we're just always appreciative of the ability to do that. And we're going to continue through session. We've had a lot of legislators who, when they're meeting with us, just asking about our LAR requests or anything else, ask about the activity. So there's a lot of interest in how TDLR is able to use the tools we do have to fight the crime. Here's a quick one that I believe you're aware of. The electric vehicle supply equipment program and the online application went live December 3rd. So we're now able to take the EV program applications, and we've talked to some of those stakeholders, and they're of course very happy that we were able to move that quickly once the rules were in place. The last update I'll give you is that Brandy sent an email on Tuesday with a link to our website showing the list of advisory board openings. You'll be receiving that regularly. We do, and I just wanted to give a quick shout out to our advisory boards. There are a lot of them and a lot of people like you who volunteer time to help support the Texans who benefit from our licensing and regulatory services. So we had 9 advisory boards who met in October and November. They provided input on rule packages, just weigh in on what they're seeing in industry. And so we always want to just thank them publicly for their hours spent.
Excellent. Anything else? Yes, sir.
Thank you for bringing an update on the advisory boards. I think, at least we know what's going on. One question on the strategic planning right there. There are certain things on hold. Was there a specific reason, like asset management, enforcement, evidence tracking? Those are on hold right there, including the DNA right there. If there is something, says it's on hold, but something got to be activated, or is there a plan when we got to keep moving?
Not sure which document you're referring to, asset tracking. Can you point me to that page, Commissioner?
That's a Office of Strategic Communication and Process Improvement. There's asset management on hold, business process analysts, and enforcement evidence tracking on hold, business process analyst category. That's where it shows.
Okay.
Courtney, it's in the last pages of the commission materials.
Thank you.
of the
I
prep.
can tell you that team works, and I've actually asked the prep team to help with a couple of specific things recently that relate to workflow and internal processes. Doug and I talked recently about some specific things, and so that team is designed to put certain projects on hold and go to others. If they're listed as on hold, we will get back to them. There's just some other priority areas we'd like for them to look at.
Fair enough. So it's still on the radar screen.
Yes.
Excellent. Anything else? Okay, a little update, commissioners, directly to you guys. I'm going to be shuffling the deck as far as committee assignments in regards to the commission. We have a lot of pressing issues. Human trafficking is going to be one of those committees that we're going to address as a commission. Combative sports, Dr. Callis will be another one that we're going to address as commission, as we highlighted. Is temporarily, we're going to look at the behavioral one. So I'm going to, if you're so inclined to be, I don't know if you want another meeting to go to or not. Licensing system is going to be another issue that we're going to need. I know what the innovation is going to be. So I'm going to shuffle the deck. I'm going to give you, since we're all here, I'm going to give you guys an opportunity to email me directly. Tell me what particular area or inclination you'd like to have. So we're going to still have the HR. We're still going to have the finance audit. We'll have the innovation. We'll be adding human trafficking. We're going to be adding combative sports, and temporarily for the year, we're going to be having the behavioral now. Okay. Now there could be more, but I'm not trying to add one just to add one. So and I could consolidate, but combative sports and all these other ones are, when we hear these things, and so we're going to charge each of these committees to at least meet, get an update from staff, even if there's not an action item. And we're going to lean on these committees to get things delivered the next year. The legislative session is going to drag a lot of energy away from our staff. And so we want to make sure we honor that. So as efficiently as we can get this and address it, especially responding to bills. So if there's a bill that needs to be addressed or some sort of modifications, we're going to try to drive that, because bringing it all here is tough every 3 months, 2 months, so we'll try to do our hard work in the committees. Again, email me directly, copy Yvonne, because my brain doesn't work, so, and then I will try to make sure that you're assigned, again, reducing the quorum. There'll only be 3 commissioners on a committee, so, rank them, when you email me, rank them to what's most important to you, okay?
You only listed 2, or HR was the third one?
You can list as many as you want, but rank them top to bottom, and I'll try to honor the ranking, okay? Makes sense?
One question on the agenda, if you don't mind. For the record, I think looking like we have filed a EEO report with the governor's office, and it shows that you all are doing a heck of a job right there. Is that fair assessment? Thank you.
Fair assessment.
Okay, anything else? So again, commissioners, that's on you. I expect that email by the next week, into next week, so I can get these committee assignments done. I know there's a pressing on a lot of these, so let me know, okay? All right, any other thing from your staff?
None from us.
Excellent. I love it. Thank you guys for your time. Thank you for your patience, and we appreciate you guys. Yes.
Yes, we do want to move on to item L, which is recommendation of dates and agenda items for the next.
I think did Yvonne, we get those
I do have
situated?
them.
So the dates that we have, do you want to read them out for us?
Friday, February 14th.
Valentine's Day, are you sure?
What was that? Friday, February 14th.
For the Valentine's Day?
Commissioner, stand down, hang on.
You be my
Let her
valentine.
finish, let her finish.
Wednesday, April 9th, and Thursday, June 19th.
Okay. Again, these are legislative times, so these dates could change due to some legislative needs. So just be flexible. I realize there's a lot of things going on, but I will try to keep them as consistent as it, or give you at least 3 ahead of time, which is 6 months in advance. Notice. All right. Am I missing anything else, Mr. James?
No, sir, thank
You
you.
sure?
I'm positive.
Okay. Staff, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate your efforts, and Merry Christmas, and have a great New Year. Motion to adjourn, please.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carried.